Hi, I'm Brandon Dorer, brand marketing reporter at AdAge. Welcome to this week's edition of the Marketer's Brief Podcast, a weekly discussion of news and trends that have the industry buzzing. 2024 was a big year for challenger brand Mint Mobile. The budget phone plan provider recorded about 50% revenue growth year over year and was acquired by T-Mobile for $1.35 billion in May. Despite being on what it calls a hyper-growth journey, the brand maintains that it's still got plenty of disruption in the tank for the telecoms industry. Today, I'm joined by Aron North, who served as Mint's chief marketer since its launch in 2016. We chatted about his time as Mint's chief marketing officer and how he's continuing to help the company challenge Big Wireless in his current role with the company as a strategic advisor. Here's the conversation with Aron. Aron North, welcome to the Marketer's Brief Podcast.
Hey, Brandon, good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for joining me. I thought it would be helpful just at the start of our chat here to talk a little bit about your time at Mint Mobile. You were CMO for a pretty long time, stepped away from that to do a more advisory role in November. Just tell me a little bit about, I guess, your time at the company, your time as CMO, including how long you were doing it and what you're doing now.
Yeah. So it was or is one of the greatest career experiences I've ever had. I actually was recruited out of Taco Bell to join Ultra Mobile about 8.5 years ago. And I joined as the SVP of marketing. I sort of got there and was introduced to the concept of Mint. I didn't invent it. It was already sort of like a white paper and a website that was going to be built. It was called Mint Sim early on. And I got real excited about it because nobody was doing direct to consumer wireless at the time. And it seemed like a really neat opportunity to have a brand built from the ground up and built really with marketing driving the growth engine. So I came in, my official task was to build a professional marketing department within the company, started doing that right away. Ultra, big kudos to the company. The company name is also a brand name. And part of the reason I was lured in was because Ultra was the fastest growing private company in America in 2015. So that was really exciting to me. I joined to take that rocket ship to the next level. And we did. We created Mint, we launched Mint, we grew it for just about 4 years before Ryan Reynolds joined. And I was part of that, bringing him on board, really, I mean, you can't say relaunching, but we really, in essence, relaunched the brand. But we already had success and trajectory, and things were already moving and shaking. And I think that momentum was really appealing to him and his team. So we went big when Ryan joined. COVID hit quickly thereafter. So Ryan joined in November of 2019. And then, of course, sort of the world shut down early 2020. And we saw an opportunity. We were timid, or not timid, but maybe cautious at first as the marketplace was pulling back on spend and figuring out what they wanted to do. So we followed that playbook, but being an all digital brand, when we saw the business was still growing and really, really healthy because we didn't have stores and a lot of stores had closed, we ended up hitting the gas pedal, and it was wild because you saw the brand start that exponential growth curve up. So we were linearly growing, but growing rapidly, and then it just almost went vertical, and the brand took off. And that was really smart media strategies, smart marketing and brand strategies, having an amazing direct to consumer group. And we were growing so fast and getting really good at sort of like breaking industry conventions. We in-housed almost everything over that 8 years. So we were using agency, we brought things in-house because it gave us more control over strategic decisions, more line of sight on what was happening, sort of like action, reaction, execution and consequence and things of that sort. And we really just saw Mint turn into this amazing disruptor to the category. One of the most, if not the most successful and amazing things I've ever worked on in my career. And it became so wildly successful that sort of like the mission became accomplished. Like we built the digital disruptor. We had an internal mantra of becoming the billion-dollar challenger, and we were acquired for 1.35 billion. So check that box. And look, I felt like I had accomplished everything I was there set out to do. I didn't want to leave. completely. And the company gave me this amazing opportunity to stay on as a strategic advisor. So I am today, right after we finish our call, I'm meeting with Andrew, who you know is the CMO and commercial owner now at Mint. He's my successor. I hired him. We worked together for the last over 4 years, and we're still planning to do some really incredible, wild, fun things with the business, with the brand, with the company. So I'm helping with that stuff and just having a little bit more freedom to be creating and building versus sort of like managing the brand and the business and sort of the enterprise underneath it, which is what I love to do. So it gives everybody what they want. Everybody's growing in the ways they're excited about. And the brand continues to really be a star. So it's very, very fun to be part of it, but also having a little bit of a step back.
Totally. All right, let's talk about Mint itself for a second here. As you were just saying, you pretty firmly established it as a disruptor in the telecoms industry. Curious, what are some recent changes you guys have seen in telecoms and how you have tried to disrupt some of these recent trends that you've observed?
Well, if you look at sort of, so Mint is now owned by T-Mobile, right? And when we were separate from T-Mobile, we were called an MVNO. That's a mobile virtual network operator. So we, in essence, buy airtime from T-Mobile and then resell it. Now we're part of the family. I think that's important context because we look at our competitors, even though we were or are a prepaid brand, a direct-to-consumer prepaid brand, we look at Verizon and AT&T as our primary competitors, not some of the other prepaid brands. Those two brands have been, I don't know what the right phrase is, but they haven't really been consumer friendly with their pricing strategies and fee tactics and things of that sort. So, one of the things they've done over the years is raised either price or fees multiple times. We have been staunchly against that. So, Mint continues to push in this sort of like counter culture, increasing price, fees, et cetera world. We keep pushing there and we'll continue to do so. I mean, they make it very easy. I just read, I believe it was last week, that there's another fee increase for Verizon customers. So we'll continue to push against that. What's insane to me is to see how our disruption has created copycats everywhere. You can look at some of these other prepaid brands, and in a time 8 years ago, they weren't selling online. Most brands weren't selling online. Now, every single network has a prepaid brand that has multi-month discount, has online discounts. Like these are the things we pioneered. And to see the copycats is kind of wild and exciting. But at the same time, we have such a head start that, we're playing chess when they're playing checkers. So we're watching people in essence, photocopy what we did years past, things we may still have today, but we're already moving on to the next thing. So we've got big plans coming up for the brand on ways to continue to differentiate and really continue to drive price value, which is what you get for what you pay. And we want to make sure we are leading the category in that equation. And for us, we don't offer lots of add-ons within Mint. It's really talk, text, and data. And if that's what you get, then what you pay is quite low because you're getting just these core things, whereas other brands are putting additional features and things of that sort, so their pricing continues to climb.
I want to talk about your price point marketing because as you were saying, you guys lean pretty heavily on it to the point where one of your ads that I get a lot on YouTube is just Ryan repeating the price point over and over and over again. What are some of the challenges associated with leaning so heavily on that price point from a marketing standpoint? I imagine obviously you have to keep it pretty fixed now that you've created this strategy and that's a challenge. But I'd love to hear just about like what are some of the other challenges about leaning so heavily on that price point?
This was a very conscious decision at time zero, right? Like we knew if we did lean into the $15 a month price point, which is one of our key brand associations now, like Mint is known at this power price point of $15. We saw early on, and I learned this from our CEO, David, that the price of talk, text, and data has historically only come down. So, in a lot of things, we were forward pricing, meaning we weren't making money at the $15 price point, but we knew if we achieved scale, that the price of that commodity to us would decrease over time and we would generate revenue that way. So if that was the premise, then we knew we could lean into that $15 price point. Now, you would expect, as prices of all goods have gone up over the last 8 years, that we would have to raise price. Well, we didn't. So then you would think, oh, well, the service must not get enhanced because how can you add more value to it and keep price the same? Well, being a digital business, our just cost structures are very different. We don't have stores, we don't have retail employees, we don't have a lot of that overhead costs that others do. So what we've been able to do as we scale is we continue to make the product better. Mint has increased its data allotment at that $15 price point 3 separate times. So the product got better and the price stayed the same. This puts pressure on the brand. But what's interesting is that what you would think is a risk and a deficiency, we used as an opportunity. And the opportunity was to really own that $15 price point. So when we look at our key brand associations, Ryan Reynolds is obviously number one. The $15 price point is number two. And because we've been so consistent with it, we've sort of, I mean, you can't own a price point, but we are known as having this $15 plan. And we continue to work to be creative on how we get that $15 price point out there, how we bring people into the fold. But there's no plan to raise price because we want to sort of air quote own that $15 price. And I think it's been really, really disruptive. And part of the backbone of our marketing strategy is to have an introductory offer that you can continue to get over time that is on that power price point. So we've embraced it over the last 8 years. It's become really key to us. And we're looking to not only keep that $15 price point, but find ways to continue to enhance the offering at that price point.
Yeah, let's talk about price transparency for just a quick sec, because I'm curious how you guys approach this on the marketing team. Because, like you were saying, for a handful of your plans, depending on how much data you get, this is an introductory price. What are some of the ways that you try to get that through in the marketing, and what is your approach to price transparency?
Right. We firmly believe in it. Okay. So now look, we have taxes and fees, like many brands in this space. A lot of these taxes and fees are issued by federal and state governments. Okay. So there's the universal telecom tax, there's the federal this, that, whatever fee. We tell people in all the communications that taxes and fees are extra. We have it when you go to checkout, so you can see them itemized top to bottom. And the fees are different depending on the state. I live in California. I know you're in New York. This is a very fee heavy state. Yours is a very fee heavy state. We outline those. But then, in addition to that, the FCC came out with broadband labels, which are in essence nutrition labels for wireless. We're very transparent there. This is what you get, and these are what the fees are. We don't try to hide behind that. Like we do say taxes and fees are extra, but that core $15 price point is there. We typically don't raise fees unless the government raises the fees, like these are a pass-through cost on our part. And we just think that like being transparent and showing the list top to bottom and letting consumers make that choice is theirs.
Right, right. A related note, a question I wanted to ask is a key component of your marketing strategy is maybe not attacking because that's a super strong word, but pointing out things about big wireless and how you don't do those things. I'm curious, since the T-Mobile acquisition, like has that challenged that marketing approach in any way? Sort of having a tie now to a larger telecom brand, is it harder in any way to point out the deficiencies of big wireless?
I don't think so because one of the great things about T-Mobile, and they are or they were an amazing MVNO partner. They're an awesome partner now as we're part of the family. Is that when I was at Taco Bell, I remember going into the Deutsch offices and looking at a new campaign and being presented like what T-Mobile was doing as a marketplace disruptor. I learned that lesson back at Taco Bell. So when I came to this company, we really modeled a lot of what we were doing just digitally driven, similar to what they were doing. They had the uncarrier moves. We were doing things that we didn't call the uncarrier, but they were very, very similar. T-Mobile continues to deliver value in different ways to the marketplace. They have I forget the exact legal appropriate term, but the fastest, most wide reaching, they in essence have the best fifth generation network, right? They're bringing extras to the table with T-Mobile Tuesdays and free Netflix, free MLB. Like they have all these add-ons. So while they may be priced higher than us, you get great price value with them because you get all these other things. That's not true with the competitors. We created a program which we called the bundle fuck. You can Google it. We have it. We used to hashtag it all the time. But like Verizon in that instance, the reason we created that campaign was that you got free things that they then took away and made you pay for. And they were trying to position it as a consumer win. It just wasn't that way. And we didn't feel that way. So we were quick to point that out. I think, whatever their approach and pricing strategy is now, I can't really comment on, but we find it very easy to point out that like when they're doing things that feel, let's just say, not pro consumer, we can point those out. We don't see that on this side of the fence. We see value being driven, value being created, and sure, we're just attacking the competitors because we see them doing things that don't feel good for the consumer. And I think it's still very much there, and it's easy for us to keep doing these things because we do want to be pro consumer and really doing the customer a solid. We created an unlimited program a long, long time ago we call Unlimited, where when you buy Mint, your first 3 months of unlimited, you may not need it. So we tell you at the conclusion of your first 90 days if unlimited is the right wireless plan for you. And if it's not, if you're using a really, really low amount of data because you're on Wi-Fi at home and this, that, and the other, we actually recommend you trade down. Now, that's a great consumer win. We're pretty much the only people doing that out there. And I just don't see others doing it because they're trying to drive up ARPU, which is average revenue per user, even if it's in sort of like unhealthy ways. And that's just not who we are. So we can continue to point out the things others are doing because we keep having such a pro consumer lens on our business.
So when this episode comes out, we're going to be at the start of 2025. I guess help me quantify what did 2024 look like to you guys? How was the growth that you guys saw?
It's incredible. I mean, I think I put this up when we were at the ANA Masters in Orlando. We're targeting around 50% growth this year. It looks like we're going to deliver that number. Pretty fantastic year to be in your 8th year and still growing by 50%. Phenomenal. So, 2024, I think when we look back, will be a year of decent change for the organization because we were approved to be acquired by T-Mobile. So, we made that transition. We're unlocking new areas to grow, new areas to expand, but really, really successful. And when I look at the marketing and advertising, it's been a phenomenal year. I mean, it's hard for us sometimes to think back to all the things we've done because we do so much. Some of our recent things are very, very fun and very, very disruptive. We launched a 30-minute, we call it the infomercial. So as everybody's moving down towards like 30s, 15s, sixes, these short, quick hit ads. Of course, we're doing those too, but we're also creating a 30-minute infomercial. We launched what we call deflation, a price promotion that takes our unlimited program and drops it to $15 for your first 3 months. We ran that in essence all year long. We're doing these wild growth driving introductory offers. We're making the business better, the service better. We're doing all these things. And I think you'll look back, or I'll look back at 2024 and say, wildly successful, tons of transformation, and setting us up again for a really healthy and aggressive 2025.
As you guys look at this rate of growth that you're on right now, I'm curious when, if this is something you've thought about, when does the disruptor mindset become challenging? At what size and scale does it start to become hard to do what you guys do from a marketing perspective? And I guess have you guys thought about once you reach a certain level of scale, where you take the marketing from there?
Well, I don't see it yet, is the truth. And that's is really a decision for Andrew as the new CMO, but we talk all the time. We'll be talking later today. There is so much room for disruption. I think it's got a long, healthy line of sight, many years out, and we can continue to disrupt. I think what you have to do is some of the disruption is quite easy at the beginning. When we were creating Mint, I read tons on Southwest Airlines. I was reading tons on Warby Parker and Dollar Shave Club. And those brands were doing things that were incredible and allowed them to scale to, massive. Like Southwest is the largest domestic airline in the United States. Now, recently they've had to do some tweaking to their business, but they are it. They are number one in the marketplace. So, Mint is still quite small relative to all the other either MVNOs or carriers in the space. So I think disruption will be a thing we can continue to focus on for years and years to come. It may not be as obvious, but this is when it gets fun. When the challenge is hard, we've got some of the most brilliant people in marketing and creative. We're working on an idea right now that when I saw it, I was like, oh, we have to do this. This is like marketing disruption 101. It has everything Mint stands for. It's very, very fun. And I can't wait to help working on this. So I don't see it ending soon. I just see the creativity and the challenge getting harder. But when you have those big challenges, that's when it's fun. It's more rewarding.
Is there a marketing idea you guys have ever had for Mint that you wanted to do, but it felt too big brand to pull off?
No, and here's why. Because we get lots of, I mean, they're cold calls, but we get propositioned new things all the time. And it's really easy for us to say no to these things because they feel wrong for the brand. We've been asked to sponsor sports teams, sports stadiums, all these things that just aren't Mint. We sponsored the Iowa State Fair husband calling contest in a barn in Iowa. That's Mint. Like we had a $15 prize. That's Mint. We just were there to celebrate it. We didn't even like put tons of signage up or things like that. We captured the content. We embraced what it stood for without trying to put a big Mint Mobile stamp on it and just had fun.
How do you find this stuff? Like a husband calling State Farm competition? Like where do you how do you identify? And I know you guys also I think sponsored it was a marble rolling competition. Like how do you find this stuff?
Well, I'll tell you, we have two really incredible agencies at our disposal. So we have Full Bars, which is our in-house creative team, and we use Maximum Effort. The husband calling contest, that's our own internal team. Amazing, super fun idea. They just came up with it. I mean, they're on the web. We like to give creative teams downtime, creative resets. We're very busy and teams have to grind and they get it, but we also like to do things that are out there. And I like to inspire, or I liked to inspire as the CMO by saying, bring me the ideas you don't think we should do because they're risky or they're wild or you think I'll be nervous. If they're a good idea, we're going to do it. So I have that internally. Then we have the creative geniuses at Maximum Effort. Like they are world class, one of the most creative agencies out there. And I love working with them because they're constantly bringing us stuff that is wildly interesting. And we're trying to find ways to execute them. The Mintfomercial is a combination of sort of something George Dewey, the president of Maximum Effort, and I have been wanting to do for years. We just finally figured out a way to make it all fit and sort of the stars align to bring that to life. So we do that. And we don't have to burden him with a lot of these low-level things that we can use our own teams to optimize against.
Awesome. All right, Aaron, I think that's all we have time for today. But thank you again so much for joining us here on the Marketers Brief.
Thank you. I absolutely love doing it. It was my pleasure.
That was Aron North, former Chief Marketing Officer at Mint Mobile. I'm Brandon Dorr, brand marketing reporter at Ad Age. I'd like to thank our producer, Lauren Chiardio, and invite you to subscribe to the Marketers Brief podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We promise we'll keep it brief.
Marketers Brief listeners get $40 off an adage.com subscription. Sharpen your marketing edge and visit adage.com/brief for your discount.